Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Road, and in today's video, two things. One, the heater in the back is on right now, so you're going to be hearing that. I apologize. And two, if I sound raspy and not that enthusiastic today, I have a cold, and it's only getting worse. We love that. Like 2 days ago, I also had the cold, and I said that in the video. I was like, hey, I got a cold. If I sound weird, that's why. I thought by now I'd be getting better. No, silly me. Silly old me. I got a fever now. Head's hurting, throat's hurting, everything's hurting. My eyeballs are hurting. My boogers are hurting so bad. Everything's hurting. But today's video is the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Somebody said they wanted to see it. That's how I do my good, bad, and uglies, by the way, is purely based off of recommendations. Also, as for the heater, and you're probably asking yourself, this guy's a horrible YouTuber. Why didn't he just wait for the heater to turn off, you know, to start filming? Well, I like to upload around the same time. Consistency is key, and it's already 9 o'clock. I like to upload. Guess what time I like to upload at? 9 o'clock. So I was like, you know what? I can't wait any longer. You guys are gonna have to listen to the heater. I apologize for that. But for those who don't know how the good, bad, and ugly works, first we go over everything you need to know about the car, just basic information, what motors it came with, if it's manual, automatic, if it's a coupe, a sedan, the years it was built, stuff like that. Then we go over what the community tends to do with them in terms of modifying them. So if they drift them, stance them, whatever it is. Then we get into the good, bad, and ugly, and we'll go over that when we get there. And then at the end of the video, I tell you whether or not I think you should buy it, depending on the current situation that you're in. But without further ado, let's go right into the good, the bad, and the ugly on the Mitsubishi 3000 GT. And again, make sure you leave a recommendation below if you want to see your car. I will never be able to just randomly guess your car, so you got to leave a recommendation if you want to see it. Alright, so like I said, the first thing we need to go over is just everything you need to know about the car, basic information, some background info, the green card on the car. First off is the years made and the generation. It was made between the years 1990 and the years 2000, and it is the only 3000 GT of all time, but there is 3 different, like, facelifted versions of this car. I'll put them on screen now. They just look different. There's nothing really actually performance-wise or interior-wise different about the cars. They just look slightly different, but I'll put them on the screen. As for the trim levels, here in America at least, we are not talking about the Mitsubishi GTO. We're not talking about the Dodge Stealth. We're talking specifically about the Mitsubishi 3000 GT in America. We have the SL trim, which is pretty much the base model trim, and it came with a 3-liter V6 making 170 horsepower. And then we also have the VR4 trim, which is the more wanted one, the performance-oriented one, the really good one. And that came with a 3-liter twin turbocharged V6 that makes up to 320 horsepower depending on the year. I accidentally pressed play on the YouTube video that I was watching of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. So if you hear that in the background, I apologize. But I'm the worst YouTuber of all time. I'm sick. Cut me some slack. And either way though, yeah, 320 horsepower depending on the year. That's really good. And the motor can make even more. The VR4 is very sought after, very sought after. As for the body styles, it is available as a coupe and a convertible only, although the convertibles are very, very rare. So most likely you're going to be getting the coupe, probably not going to be getting the convertible anytime soon. As for the drivetrains, it is front-wheel drive for the SL models, or the base models, one that most likely you are going to be buying, or it's all-wheel drive for the VR4 models, which is obviously a lot better, but again, that's way more expensive. As for the transmissions, it is available as an automatic or a manual. Get the manual, it's a 90s JDM car. If you're driving around in an automatic 3000 GT, man, come on. You know dang it well that you want the manual, okay? We all want the manual. As for the price, how much do these bad boys go for? Well, obviously they're used cars, so the price varies heavily on what car you actually end up getting. But if you just get like a base model, not the best condition, but it's still drivable, you know, you can buy one for like $4,000. But if you want like a nice low mileage example of a VR4, you're looking at like 20 grand. So the range there is obviously extreme depending on what trim level you get, the mileage you get, etc. But I would say on average, if you're just like a regular guy looking to buy a 3000 GT SL, I would say like the average price is probably 6 grand if I had to guess. As for the reliability and the gas mileage, hey, look at that, the heater turned off. That's amazing. But as for the reliability and the gas mileage, they're not the most reliable cars out there. That's no secret, but yeah, they're just not. They're not the best in terms of reliability. As for the miles per gallon in the SLs, the 3000 GT SLs, they get a combined 22 miles per gallon. I can only assume that the VR4 is relatively similar, maybe down a little bit, but then again, it's got 2 turbos on it, so maybe it's even up a little bit. I don't know, but as for the SL, it's a 22 miles per gallon combined. Alrighty, but now I know what you guys are thinking. What do the boyos do with these cars when they modify them? Mark, huh? What do they do? What is the community doing? As for the drifting scene, obviously they are not seen in the drifting community at all because you either have a front-wheel drive option or an all-wheel drive option, and I guess you could convert the all-wheel drive one to rear-wheel drive, but nobody's going to want to do that in a VR4. They're valuable cars. They're not going to want to turn that into a rear-wheel drive car. As for the rally/off-roading scene, obviously this is not seen either. They're long cars. They're low sports cars. The 3000 GT SLs are front-wheel drive. They're heavier. They're just not wanted in the off-road community. As for the street racing boys, the VR4 was very popular back in the day, but not too much anymore, unfortunately. It's not common that you will see a 3000 GT VR4 built up racing around on the streets anymore. Back in the day, though, yeah, it was very popular. As for the track racing, circuit racing community, this is definitely its most popular application. These cars are very easy to make quick and nimble. Just do a little bit of weight reduction and you're pretty much already there. Especially if it's a VR4, it's even better then. But yeah, they were kind of built for the track, so yeah, you'll see some at the track. And as for the stand/show community, the guys that want to just make it look good and just look at the car and that's all they care about, it's seen for sure, because at this point, what car isn't, built for looks? These things are gorgeous cars. They look like sports cars and people like that, so they turn them into nice little show cars. What more can I say? All right, I just had a coughing fit there for a second, but all right. Now we are into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And in case you're new here and you don't know how this works, first we go over the good. These are just things about the car that are selling points. If you were going to the dealership in 1997, they would say these things to you to try and get you to buy the car. Then we go into the bad, which are not actually bad things. It's just a fun play on words. It's kind of like the middle ground. It's kind of up to you. If it affects you, then that's a bad thing. If it doesn't affect you, then who cares? Doesn't matter. And then we get into the ugly. Those are true problems that everybody's going to have to face at some point with the car or something along those lines. But without further ado, let's get right into it with the good. And the first thing that's good about these cars is the price on the SL models in particular. The VR4s are really overpriced, but the SLs are one of the last 90s JDM cars that are actually cool that you can buy for around $5,000. There's not that many cars like that anymore, and this is one of them. So that's obviously really good. Next for the good is the looks. Obviously this is personal preference, don't get me wrong. It's literally just looks at the end of the day, but I feel like you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that doesn't like the looks of this car. They look sporty, they look good, they're a cool car. So I'm putting them in the good today. Next is the active aero on VR4 models. In case you don't know, these cars, the VR4 3000 GTs, had active aero. That's really cool when it works. We'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, if it's working, that's freaking awesome. Active aero, that's not seen on a lot of cars, and if it is seen on a car, it's usually a supercar, so it's really cool that it's just on a random Mitsubishi in the 90s. Next is the insane tuning potential of the VR4 models. VR engines in general, whether it's Volkswagen's VR6 or Mitsubishi's VR4, are incredible tuning monsters for some reason. I don't know why, I don't know the science behind it, but they just love power, and that is exactly how it is with this car. Next up is the car does share parts with the Dodge Stealth, so if you're an American, it's actually easier to find parts than you would think. Now, I'm not saying it's super easy. It's not like you're looking for a Toyota Camry. Sorry about that. I had to hold back a cough there. I had to fight it off. It's not like you're buying parts for a Camry. You're still buying parts for a sports car. But since it does share parts with the Stealth, there's more of these than you would think, and so therefore there are more parts than you would think. Next is they are surprisingly comfy, apparently. That's just what I'm going off of based on the forums. That's what they're saying, is that their 3000 GTs are actually a relatively comfortable car to drive. Obviously, people like me and you will make sure that that is not the case within 2 months of owning it, because we'll probably lower it to the ground and make it undrivable. But if you're keeping it stock, it's comfy. Next is apparently the car also has good sound systems. Very surprising. I don't think I've ever been in a 90s car with good sound systems. They only sound like, and apparently that's not the 3000 GT, so that's good. And finally, for the good is the aftermarket support, especially for the VR4 models. A ton of companies have made parts for 3000 GTs, and you have tons of options to choose from. Now, I will say the cosmetic support, aftermarket, exterior mods, they're actually not as plentiful as you would expect, but the performance mods, yeah, there's tons of those. Tons of companies made tons of mods for these cars. But now we are getting into the bad. And again, I just want to make it very clear, this is not actually me saying that these are bad things about the car. They're just things that you might want to take into consideration. It might affect you, but it might not. It might not be a problem for you at all, but it might be a problem. Who knows? First off is the sound. I always put this here because obviously sound is 100% up to personal preference. And so here's a sound clip of a VR4. Next up is the price for VR4 models. It's obviously pretty expensive, but if you're looking at buying a VR4, you probably already know that, and so you're ready to spend big bucks on a car like that. Next is the car is not very well known. This could be a good thing or a bad thing. That's why it's here in the bad. Personally, I don't really care if my car has a bunch of clout around it and everybody on Instagram's loving my car. I don't care about that. But yeah, if you're thinking you're gonna get like a million Instagram followers, dude, just buy a BRZ. That's like the grade A way to do that. Next up is they are very unreliable, especially with active aero. We'll get into this a little bit later on, but yeah, these cars are just not known for their reliability, unfortunately. They're a sports car. I mean, what did you expect? Next is the community for them is rather small, especially in today's day and age. Back in like the 2000s, yeah, there was a pretty big community for them, but nowadays, it's just nobody really talks about them. Nobody really cares about them for some reason. And so I know personally with my Integra, there have been tons of problems that I've had with it where I like looked it up and saw a forum of people talking about it, and it helped me solve the problem. That's always helpful. As a 3000 GT owner though, you might not have that option because there's less of you. There's less of you out there. Next up is cup holders pretty much just don't exist. It's a sports car, but yeah, you're not carrying around any Arizona iced teas in your car, unfortunately. I have to do that with my Integra. It drives me absolutely insane. When I buy Arizona iced teas and accidentally open it in the car, I make the grave mistake of opening it in my car. I have to put it in my passenger seat and then just pray to the Lords above that it doesn't fall over. I drive it like the slowest miles per hour. It's so frustrating. Next up is the valve stem seals apparently tend to go. That could just be because of old age, but it's a problem, so... not the biggest problem, but it's a problem. Next up is, this is an old car, so all rubbers may need to be replaced, and other obvious things that come with age may happen, like ripped interior, just not quality interior overall, like, I don't know, cracked dash, ripped seats, broken vents, whatever it may be happening, and sunroof may be leaking. Obviously, like I said, the rubbers, all bushings, etc., those may be busted. Electronic components, my bad, maybe just shot. There's a lot of problems that could be wrong with this car just because of the age. Also, there's a lot of 3000 GTs out there that haven't really been well taken care of, so even more of a reason for them to be in rough condition. Next up is apparently the synchros and the trans tend to go in these things. I hate synchros. I'm not a good transmission guy whatsoever. I had a problem with mine in my 350Z. I didn't even fix it. I just sold it with the problem. I was like, I'm not going after that. So if you're the type of guy like me, this deserves to be in the ugly spot. But there are some people out there that don't mind working on transmissions. So I guess if that's you, it's here in the bad for you in particular. And finally, for the bad is they are front wheel drive only. Obviously, unless you get the VR4 model, but most likely you're not. So front wheel drive, it's questionable. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't mind it, but I do like rear wheel drive better, and I feel like the majority of the community does, and that's why it's here in the bad. But yeah, front wheel drive only, it's just could have been, if it was rear wheel drive, this car would have been like 10 times cooler. All right, but now we're into the ugly, and these are just problems. These are going to be problems that you're going to have to face with the car, or just things that are bad about the car, things that I don't like about it. They're going to make me upset. First off is pretty much every single electronic component is now useless. It's just too old, unfortunately. We touched up on this a little bit earlier, but it's a problem. I mean, especially if it's really bad and it can cause like serious wiring issues to the ECU, and then your engine's just going to run poorly. Like my 350Z, when I first got my 350Z, it was in limp mode, and it took like a month just to figure out the wiring issue that it had. That can be an absolute nightmare, so just keep that in mind. Next for the ugly is automatic transmissions are useless. Get a manual. You probably should have known this, and you're probably looking at getting a manual 3000 GT anyways, but yeah, in case you were on the fence on whether or not you should get an auto or a manual in this car, here's your selling point. The automatic transmissions are not only slush boxes, but apparently are also incredibly unreliable, so just go with the manual, man. Next, and finally for the ugly, there's only 3, but it's actually a relatively decent amount for uglies. I usually don't have that many uglies. But finally for the ugly is the transfer case in VR4 models are apparently just complete ticking time bombs. Those are not fun to replace. I don't like it at all. Some people maybe, I guess, if you're a psychopath, might enjoy replacing transfer cases. I don't want to do that. I'd never want to do that again. And apparently these cars are just, they're gonna have transfer cases. Now, the good news is since they are so old, maybe it has already been replaced. Maybe it has a better transfer case in it. Who knows? But just be careful about that. Be wary about it. So my final thoughts. Do I think you should buy a 3000 GT? Well, we have 4 different instances, different scenarios where one might find themselves wanting to buy a car in. And so first off is the daily driver folks. People that are literally not into cars at all. They just want to buy a daily driver. Something to get them from point A to point B. That's it. That's all they need. Obviously not. This is a sports car. It's a 2-door sports car. There are tons of better options for the money that aren't unreliable sports cars. Just get a Camry. If you're literally just a person that couldn't care less about, you know, what you're driving as long as it gets you from point A to point B, just get a Camry, get a Civic, get a Corolla. Don't try and go all fancy. As for the car guys looking for a daily driver, though, because we are different, you know, we need dailies, but we want our dailies to be a little bit fun too. I still would say no, though, on this car. There are, again, just too many problems, and it's just not practical enough either. Like, these cars don't have the most space. They're only 2 doors. They're low to the ground. If you're in a winter area, it's even worse. I guess the VR4 is okay because it's all-wheel drive, but still not I wouldn't recommend driving that in snow. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend just sticking to the basic car guy dailies, GTIs, Civic SIs, Focus STs, stuff like that. As for the people looking for a Sunday cruiser, they just want to take it out once a week, enjoy it, keep it stocked, keep it clean, then sell it in 20 years for profits. I can see it if it's a VR4 for sure, but only if the active aero actually works. Like, if you can find a decent VR4, yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. You want to keep it nice and keep it running and working so that you can sell it later on or whatever and enjoy it once a week. Yeah, that makes sense. But as for anybody else that's looking at just like, if let's be real here. If your 3000 GT is beat up, just enjoy it. And then finally, as for the people looking for a race car or a project car, they just want to build up a beast. This is easily the one where I think the 3000 GTs shines the most. I want to see way more like time attack style 3000 GTs. I want to see a rally 3000 GT. I think more people should start looking into making these things wacky and wild. YouTubers start picking them up because I love them, but again, there's just not that many people that build them out there anymore, and so I feel like there's so much potential here that people aren't touching. So yeah, if you're looking for a race car or a project car, I think it's a pretty good option. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video on the good, the bad, and the ugly on the Mitsubishi 3000 GT. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Obviously, like I said in the intro, be sure to recommend what car you want to see in the good, bad, and ugly next. That way I can actually end up doing it eventually. I'm not saying that just because you comment it will be next. Obviously, I get a lot of comments, but if you comment, you have a better chance at seeing your car than if you don't comment. And that's not me trying to, you guys know me. All my videos, I never ask for people to comment random stuff. I only do it on the good, bad, and uglies because it's how I get the next good, bad, and uglies, okay? So I just want to make that abundantly clear, okay? Short intro for today, though, because like I said, I feel sick and I want to get this video out as fast as possible. So I'm sorry, but das vidanya and have a nice night.